Morgan Spurlock, Inside Man. New episode tomorrow at 10 on CNN.
And welcome back. There's breaking news tonight as Donald Trump takes time off from his campaign reboot for a business trip to his golf properties in Scotland. Earlier today, he sat down with NBC News' Lester Holt, who asked him about a widely disputed claim he made about Hillary Clinton in a speech yesterday. He asked for evidence.
You also made the claim that her personal email server had been hacked, probably by foreign governments, suggesting that...
Well, you don't know that it hasn't been.
Well, wait a minute, but suggesting that she would be compromised as president. What evidence do you have?
Well, first of all, she shouldn't have had a personal server, okay? She shouldn't have had it. It's illegal. What she did is illegal. Now, she might not be judged that way because, you know, we have a rigged system. But what she did is illegal. She shouldn't have had a personal server.
But is there any evidence that it was hacked other than routine phishing attacks?
I think I read that and I heard it, and somebody that also gave me that information. I will report back to you.
Now, whatever you may think about Donald Trump, Secretary Clinton, the whole email affair, Trump's answer is similar to his promise that his investigators in Hawaii were digging up evidence that President Obama was not born there. He never got back to us or, frankly, anyone else on that. Hillary Clinton has, however, just taken a shot at him online with a new ad slamming his Scotland trip. More on that and the rest of the day in politics from our Phil Mattingly.
Hillary Clinton, and as you know, most people know, she's a world-class liar.
Fresh off his most scathing attack on Hillary Clinton, the best fundraising stretch of his campaign, and an internal shakeup well received inside an increasingly uneasy party,
yesterday's speech went a long ways to reigniting the members as well as the party faithful. Yesterday's speech was very important in making that pivot.
Donald Trump is leaving the country, heading to Scotland, not to meet with world leaders or burnish his foreign policy credentials. Instead, it's for the reopening of a golf course, Trump's Turnberry Resort. A course Trump, in a 2014 interview with Golf Digest, called a, quote, super trophy and one of the great pieces of art. An unorthodox move again raising questions inside the GOP. Yet another sign that this isn't a traditional campaign and Trump is far from a traditional candidate. Trump's trip coming as a new CNN ORC poll finds that nearly 70% of voters surveyed say Trump should step down from his role atop the Trump Organization as he runs for president. And the reception in Scotland will be far from celebratory. Residents, angered by Trump's bare-knuckled business strategy, protesting his visit, even flying Mexican flags to mock his arrival. The Clinton campaign also hitting Trump ahead of the trip with a new web video tonight. But for Trump, the visit underscores an asset viewed by aides as central to his campaign, his business empire.
I built an amazing business that I love.
And it comes as his campaign tries to turn a corner, meeting a week plagued by an anemic fundraising report by raising more than $11 million since Tuesday, according to campaign officials. Trump's top campaign aide, Paul Manafort, also mounting a detailed and organized delegate operation designed to undercut any efforts to oust Trump at the convention. With Trump today floating the unorthodox possibility of naming his cabinet during the campaign.
I think I might be inclined to do that. I don't think that's that unusual, though. That's been done before, hasn't it, you?
No, I don't think we've ever had a cabinet member named. There was a hint that Colin Powell was going to be dubbed as Secretary of State, but it was just a hint. I mean, if you appear with these guys...
Well, did they wait till after the election and then cabinet?
Yes.
All as Hillary Clinton continues to mount attacks on Trump's business resume.
You might think that because he has spent his life as a businessman, he'd be better prepared to handle the economy. Well, it turns out he's dangerous there, too.
Phil joins us now. So Trump announced today that he would, quote, fully extinguish the $50 million loan that he made to his campaign. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it means Donald Trump, Anderson, can no longer reimburse himself. Now, while he said throughout the campaign up to this point that he was self-funding, they were loans. And had Donald Trump raised enough money to match that amount of loans, he was well within his rights to pay himself back. Now, he is not, Trump now, making good on that promise not to ever reimburse himself. Anderson?
All right. Phil Mattingly. Phil, thanks very much. We're back with our panel. Kaylee, let's first talk about what he said to Lester Holt. Does it concern you at all as a Trump supporter that something he says in his speech, he, A, doesn't know where he got it from, and can't come up with any evidence to back it up.
No, because his claims were not baseless. In fact, a Romanian hacker, Guccifer, claims that he hacked Hillary Clinton's server. Not only that, the Associated Press reported on June 8th that in 2011, Hillary Clinton was forced off of her emails due to a hacking attack. The Associated Press also reported they had to unplug the server at one point during hacking attack. That same article also said in 2014, the State Department's unclassified email system was breached by hackers. So there's a lot of evidence out there that somebody perhaps got into her emails.
Does it worry you that Donald Trump can't say any of that?
No, that doesn't worry me. He knows the conclusion. He doesn't need to have every single nitpicky detail. I'm concerned about his grand vision for this country, and I think it's the right one for the president.
Tara?
I think as a presidential candidate who's going to be in charge of top secret information, national security information, details matter. And so if he's going to make those accusations, he should really know where he got them from. He can't go around and say, well, I got them from the shows. I mean, yes, there is merit to what he said, but unfortunately, you look at it and go, well, where did he get it from? It's like, well, so I heard it from somewhere. That's not acceptable as a presidential candidate. You have to elevate the discussion here. Okay. And also there was another incident with Sidney Blumenthal's email being hacked, and he had emails with Hillary Clinton to her personal server, which was another potential breach that came up as well. So there is merit to that.
On the Scotland trip, I mean, the fact that at this point, at a pivotal point in the campaign, I mean, I guess all points are pretty pivotal in this campaign, but at a very critical point, he goes to Scotland. Does that concern you at all?
No, look, this is a trip that was announced a couple of days ago, and the important thing here is this is one of his son's major projects. It's a family business. This is his son's, Eric's, major project, and you go and you support your kids. One of the best moments of the campaign for Donald Trump was actually on a CNN set where he had his whole family around him, and they portrayed themselves as a very united family. I think that's good for him.
Family town hall.
Right. You know, the other thing is, I find it ironic, again, just to call out the selective outrage of the left, but I find it very ironic that a lot of people on the Democratic side are suddenly concerned that someone's spending time on a golf course. Barack Obama spent 270 days on a golf course. 10% of the days he was president of the United States, he spent on a golf course. That's the question we should ask.
Well, let's talk to our Democrats over here.
I'm sure they will.
I mean, he is a businessman. That's what brought him to the table in the first place, and he's got a business.
I think what this demonstrates is he is a businessman, and with Donald Trump, his businesses will always come first. Yeah. Much the same way when the federal judge threatened his business with that Trump University lawsuit, he went after him. I think this proves that nothing will ever come between Donald Trump and a dollar, and that he is self-dealing, and that this whole thing, I mean, he's the one who said, I'll run for president and I'll make money on it. And between the reimbursements to himself and his family, and the way that he's, the biggest expenditure in the last campaign report was on Trump hats.
But let's just be fair here for a second. I mean, there's been a lot of presidents, Bill Clinton included, who didn't have any foreign policy experience. George W. Bush was a governor. I mean, just because he's going overseas and not meeting with world leaders, there's a lot of presidents who didn't have foreign policy experience.
Sure, but they also didn't go around saying that they knew more about ISIS than the generals did. So it's what he says and where he says he gets his information from the Sunday shows, from the internet. It goes to the lack of seriousness, even of his wanting to understand the intricacies of foreign policy. This trip, I think, should concern Republican donors, who, by the way, my understanding is that the campaign is paying for this, at a time when he has no infrastructure, he has no message, he is just now starting to raise money, so he's way behind on that. He has no strategy.
I would think you would be arguing that he should take more of these trips to
no, by all means. I was going to end this by saying I absolutely condone this trip 100%. But the other thing that it does is that as we start finding out what his business is in Scotland, and specifically with this golf resort, the way that he conducted his business is similar to the way that he conducted his businesses here and to how he will conduct the economy, which is he essentially rolled everybody using the equivalent of eminent domain. Exactly. A lot of protests are going to go on. The neighbors in that resort hate him. They don't want him there. And I think all of that is going to continue to underscore the Clinton message.
Look, this is his son's business. He's doing this. I think we could argue, and you make a good point, that this is not exactly what he ought to be doing while his campaign is in some disarray. I think the difference between Donald Trump and other candidates who, as you point out, didn't know about foreign policy is that Bill Clinton and George W. Bush had well-formed foreign policy positions, and let's put immigration aside, which they didn't change or take back
or look at again during the middle of a campaign. For example, the question of the temporary ban on Muslims, which he said this is absolutely going to happen, and then he said maybe it was a suggestion. I think they had kind of well-formed platforms, and I think what we see with Trump is that it keeps evolving. And I know, Kaylee, you would argue that might be a good thing. But if you are running for president, you might think, well, maybe you ought to be meeting with the president of Israel, or you maybe ought to be meeting with other foreign leaders rather than on the Gulf.
Let's take another quick break. After vowing no bill, no break, House Democrats ended their sit-in over gun control legislation. I'll talk to a pair of House members on opposite sides of the debate about what, if anything, actually was accomplished and what happens next.
Heartburn go away. Strong and soothing. Mylanta. Faster than heartburn.
Great suckers.